Chicagoans waking up this morning and they've got a mayoral primary. There are 9 candidates on the ballots, and incumbent Mayor Lori Lightfoot could be facing down the final few weeks of her tenure as Chicago mayor. And to look back, she dealt with crime issues, COVID-19, education, and so much more. Joining us now to provide a little bit of commentary as to what in the world is going on up in Chicago and what the takeaway should be is Chicago area reporter William Kelly. William, thanks for taking time with us, man. Let's get into it. What's you think's at stake here in Chicago this morning?
The future of Western civilization, Greg. That is what is at stake. Trust me when I tell you this. First of all, God bless you, brother. You and I have been on a wild roller coaster of emotion, covering, chronicling this mayor's race for. I mean, it seems like the Iliad and the Odyssey. You and I have been working on this project for a couple of years now, haven't we?
Well, listen, I've been down in Springfield covering the State House. I've seen Lori Lightfoot here on a few occasions. You're in the thick of it. You're up in Chicago, going to the news conferences, having those spats with the mayor, trying to get some tough questions answered, and you've got even litigation against the mayor for blocking you from being a member of the media.
Well, can you believe it? You know, the ancient Greeks, they warned us. They said, do not look Medusa directly in the eye. I've been having a staring contest with the modern-day Medusa, Lori Lightfoot, for the last 2 years. And, we went to these City Hall press conferences. You know, I got all dressed up for prom, and put on my three-piece suit. And it was like I got all dressed up. And I was at like a clown show. It was like absurd. It was the theater of the absurd, Greg, is what it was. And there I was asking Mayor Lori Lightfoot questions about crime and lockdowns and looting, and all she ever did was scream at me. And and that's why all of these videos went viral. You know, if you Google Lori Lightfoot reporter or whatever, William J. Kelly reporter. I think most of the videos are actually at reporterwilliamjkelly.com. But the reason why these videos of me interviewing or questioning the mayor went viral was because of her reaction. She did all of the work for me. We got millions of views, comments, likes, and shares because and I'm sorry, I know that this doesn't sound polite, but it's a fact. In my opinion, allegedly, she did not like being questioned by a white male. She, and it's a shame. And
even at one point, didn't she say that she would only do one-on-ones with people of color?
Exactly right. And so really, her absurd gospel of, that somehow the day of the white male asking questions or being a part of society is over is really, I think, what has done her in. Because, Chicago is a obviously very open, welcoming, forgiving place. And, they elected her knowing, obviously, that she is, not a white male. She's a black lesbian, so, I mean, obviously the people of Chicago were like, okay, let's make history. Let's elect this black lesbian and mayor of the city of Chicago.
And they did that 4 years later. She's dealt with crime. She's dealt with COVID, requiring city employees to get vaccinated for something that now has been shown to not be as effective. She also dealt with the schools as the Chicago Teachers Union was, I don't know how many times they've had walkouts or work stoppages under Lori Lightfoot's tenure. It has to be at least 3 or 4. But all of these things, do you think that this is, in a way, cascading to be why she's not leading in the polls and could actually be on the way out after today's primary?
100% yes. And, oddly, she brought it on herself. When I went to the city council meetings and to ask her questions, obvious questions that the people of Chicago were telling me that they wanted me to ask her, she, instead of just answering the question like any mayor of any city would do, she blew up at me. And so it was something that even I could not have possibly anticipated. But here's the real honest to God truth about today's election. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen. In my opinion, the polls are wrong. Everything that you're reading in the Chicago newspapers is false. There's something called political math. Okay, this is the theory. If I'm ever famous for anything, it'll be the Kelly theory of political math. Okay, there are 9 candidates in the race.
Right.
All right. So do the math. You've got an incumbent mayor of Chicago. That's typically a pretty powerful position to be in, even if you're not the most popular mayor. And then you've got a guy named Brandon Johnson. He is being supported by the very powerful teachers union. My investigations have shown that the teachers union is not very good at educating children, but they are ridiculously good at political organizing. So,
well, not just political organizing, but also taking union dues and apparently giving those union dues to politicians that teachers that are part of the union paying the dues don't agree with, which is really, I think, a crux of the arguments of why people shouldn't be forced into associations. But that's another conversation for another day.
There you go. So you got this Brandon Johnson guy who has this union that is organizing. But here's the political math. You also have Congressman Chuy Garcia, who, from what I can tell, is a decent person, a friendly person, the kind of guy that you'd like to have as a neighbor. But unfortunately, he's a communist, in my opinion. And so he's going to be taking votes away from this guy named Brandon Johnson. So that gives Mayor Lightfoot the opportunity to kind of shoot up the middle. And that's how elections are won. It's not who, it's never really on the issue or on the character that you hope, the values or the principles that you would hope that the election would be decided upon. It's kind of how many candidates are in the race and who's taking votes away from who.
So 9 different candidates. Recent polling suggesting that Lightfoot might be in 4th place with Paul Vallis, Chuy Garcia, Brandon Johnson taking those top 3 spots. Are you predicting that Lightfoot could survive this primary and head on into the runoff?
I'm not on. Well, my prediction, and I'll just go ahead and do what none of these pollsters are willing to do. Every pollster that I've talked to, and I call them up. I don't just read it in the newspaper. I call these people up and I ask them, what their methods are. And when push comes to shove, they all say, too close to call. Well, I'm going to make a prediction, and you can have me back on and tell me how good I am at making predictions. I predict that Lightfoot will make the runoff. And I also predict that if she's in the runoff, that she will be reelected mayor of the city of Chicago.
Well, we'll be watching that closely. William Kelly, reporter out of Chicago, and the trajectory of your lawsuit. Just touch on that briefly. What's next there?
Well, we are in federal court. As you mentioned, Mayor Lightfoot did revoke my media credential because I was asking too many real questions. Reporter WilliamJKelly.com is where you can find out about that. Another incredibly important story that I broke for the Daily Mail. You can read it. I guess you can find it on my Twitter feed right now. You can find it at the Daily Mail, or you can find it at William J. Kelly on Twitter. Is the jail vote? The inmates of Cook County Jail are being, according to them, being pressured to vote, even though many of them are saying they're honest enough. They're not honest enough not to end up in Cook County Jail, but they're honest enough to tell the jail personnel that they're not registered, and they don't even, in some cases, don't even have residency in Chicago. But nope, they're being pressured to vote. So that is the kind of the political math here in Chicago. The consideration that I believe will put Mayor Lightfoot in a runoff. It's a very Oh, it's a very, very, very disheartening. I was born and raised in Chicago. I love Chicago. I love joking around, but I also want to be clear. I love Chicago. And it breaks my heart to think that a mayor that has made Chicago synonymous with violent crime could possibly get in a runoff based on the jail vote. It's so ironic. You can't even make this stuff up, Greg.
Well, it's pretty incredible, and we'll be watching that closely. Interesting caveat you put there about, yes, indeed, inmates who are pending trial can vote in the city of Chicago and really anywhere across the state as long as they're not felons. So interesting stuff. William Kelly, greatly appreciated as always. We'll talk very soon, okay?
Thank you, brother.
It is Springfield's Morning.